from filming the goodies and sort of all the episodes, what sort of do you have one standout memory of that was sort of a perfect goodies moment?
I don't think so. There were moments when you were just so pleased that you managed to do it. There's a bit which I actually quite like watching now because it was so interesting at the time. I'm going around with a kitten, sorry to disabuse you, but it's on the end of a metal pole and a bit of fluff on the end. But I had to do that 4 or 5 times, and I really felt quite ill. And to see it now and think, actually it was worth doing, because it might not have not good. And there's a bit when I suddenly put in, going around, and then suddenly let it stop to have a pee, and then went on again, which I put in, I think, the 3rd one, just for my own benefit. I was pleased with it done. So that, there were bits where the 3 of us were, some of the stuff up in the sky, you know, on the trombone in the sky, that was actually quite frightening.
You said you hurt yourself,
I did, yes. You may know the story, but I actually, the thing turned over, the other sort of grabbed on, and I was caught, blood gushing out up here, and eventually got down the stage floor. A very strong came up, said, well, I'll get you down, looked at the blood and fainted. So that wasn't good. And I actually, I think you also know this, I went to the nurse, who was French, and how you can have a nurse at the BBC who doesn't speak English very well, I don't know, but she said, how you do this? And I was going, well, this long chat, kitten, les bonbons, she told me to piss off, but don't kill. Otherwise, there are moments of timing of things. At the end, if you talk about the end, it's actually one of my favourite episodes. And there's suddenly the interaction of all of us working together and acting better than we usually did was really satisfying. You know, there were bits when you can really wait for things to happen. Those ones where we did run out of money and had to do everything in the one set, I think some of the best episodes because of that. It just meant you had to work harder to get the last, verbally of course, and sometimes visually. And it is nice when you, even after all these years, people talk about teapots and you know, worrying about my belly button and things like that. So I'm still wearing that.
One of the questions that I asked was, are you still a teapot?
Most of the time. I think there was a time in the first pantomime I did when I had a script. I was buttons and that sort of time, and it was really awful script, so I thought I'd go for the visual things, which were actually fairly well known, which is, what's that? It's a dwarf playing a piano. And they said, what's this? It begins with T and it ends with pot. What's this? And that was a left-handed teapot. And then the last time I got took over by half and said, what's this? I thought it was meant to be a China teapot. I thought a little boy in the 5th row said, it's a very silly man. He got the biggest laugh in the room.
All the shows, you obviously had kittens running around.
As you do.
Giant flying geese, giant boots, all sorts of random, strange things put together for you. Did the sort of set designers ever just turn around and go, seriously, you're having a laugh this time?
Well, there were times when you did get it wrong, because if you think about wardrobe, we'd say we want a really, really big boot. And there's one that Alfie Bass can get into, and there's one that size 14 shoe can go into, and that suddenly she brought this one, no, Alfie Bass is not going to get into. So, you know, you can sort of be misinterpreted. On the whole, they were brilliant. The visual effects people, we always call them the SAS of comedy, they just could do anything on this. And we'll talk about when we would meet before filming, and Jim Franklin would be brilliant, have this, you know, for every single shot basically was drawn. And we'd sit around the table with the makeup people, these visual effects, wardrobe, and we'd all sit around the table, and for a couple of days actually, maybe even longer, going through it all so that everybody knew when they got there, and quite often the wardrobe people would help the visual effects. Oh, we can get a cap like that, we can get the dummy, oh, we can dress it, and and they all worked together, and we always made sure that we knew everything we suggested was possible, and we have a way of doing it. But this would almost be a gauntlet thrown out to them. They would do it in a better way, and they always did. I can't tell you how good they were. They just were fantastic. I think there are a couple of books coming out actually of visual effects with the BBC. It's be interesting to see what they're like. And I've got some photographs of some of our visual effects. I can't sort of release them because they're owned by one of the visual effects guys, and the Doctor Who people published several of them in all the books without asking him, so he's sort of rather, well, I might let some people know the website sometime.
Did you ever keep any of the props as like a memento?
I've still got the 3 flat caps. In fact, I nearly brought them and I thought, well, I'm actually going to lose them, so because they have been useful when the 3 of us have had to go and do things. I've got the in-betweeners costume.
Oh, why did you not wear that today?
I can tell you several pounds worth of reason.
Do you still have the carrot underpants?
No, I haven't got those, unfortunately. I wouldn't mind those. Give me a little shock. But I realised how slow we must have been trying to get into this costume. It's absolutely incredible. But that's some of the things. That's when you asked what I regretted. The costume we wore for Funky Giver, I regret enormously. It wasn't quite so ghastly then, because a lot of people actually did dress almost like that. But now it looks like they're presenting Blue Peter. Rather slowly and badly. Oh, yeah. So I do regret that.
Any other questions?
You've said who your comedy influences were in the past. Who do you admire now that's doing comedy?
Armstrong Miller, I find him very funny. I love the IT crowd. I think that makes me laugh a lot. And that sort of didn't get the acclaim that it is now, I have to say. Who else? I'm trying to think of just remembering now. Tell me something that you think's good, and I'll tell you whether I like them or not.
Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah, lovely. That's great.
You would have made Bryn's father very well.
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really love to have done that. I did a thing the other day for the P.G. Woodhouse Society, which I didn't even know existed, but they had a rather posh, rather splendid meal in one of the inns in London last week, actually. And 76 members of the American P.G. Woodhouse Society were there. And I was asked to read Uncle Fred in the Springtime. And it was just so good to do, and I thought I'd love to have done that character on stage. It was just a brilliant character. I don't know how I got there. Well, where was I before? Well,
Favourite comedians around now?
Well, David Mitchell, of course, I worked with quite a bit. I think those two are very good. Tell me some that are on now. I watch comedy quite a lot. Nobody watches any comedy.
Harry Paul.
Quite. Yes, I think they're funny, and they used to be funny enough. I think they're. Yeah. Any others?
What about sort of stand-up comedians?
I do. Yeah, I do actually. And in fact, I think it's interesting working with quite a few of the relatively younger. I'm sorry, I haven't a clue. A lot of them don't like the successful ones, like Michael McIntyre. You can see they're jealous, and you think, just, it's good fun, and he brings other people on who are good fun, and I don't particularly like stand-up, because I prefer people working with each other and bouncing off each other. That's why I like these ones that actually can do stand-up, but then go and work with other people. And it's interesting, Jack D doing his sitcom, which I think is really good when you see other people. And he obviously enjoys it so much more, working with other people. So it's great when that happens.
And he works very well on Clue with the lad.
Yes, very good. And he does a bitterly horrible Nicholas Parsons. This is almost too good. Makes you flinch.
Just passes a scary man.
Yes.
When you were planning the goodies episodes, the three of you, did you walk around getting
where you've got a visual scene and you need music, because that was one of the problems is when you're filming, there's always an aeroplane going over the top or whatever, so you can't use real sound. So that's how we got Ryan. And to be fair, I mean, Bill has got this incredible knack of writing this music, and he can write totally original music or very good pastiche. And I was used to being annoyed because he'd move on from his original one to something that was even more forward-looking. I think, stick to the old thing, you know. And, he always wrote good tunes, good songs.
Can you badger him to release them all on CD for us?
No, he gets money for that. I don't want to do that. I don't know if you read the notes he wrote for the CD, which is, he thinks it was irony. It doesn't come over that.
Some of the songs, obviously, we've already got been released, like Funky Gibbon and all those kind of ones, but some of just the background music in the episodes is really fantastic stuff, and it's a shame that it's not more available.
I went on for something else, Spotify, the other day, and I just thought, you know, the goodies there is by a completely different band. The only good is Goodies Steve. Yeah. And it is extraordinary suddenly that there is one of our numbers there, but it's not by us.
Is that the SpiderMan version? Is it an Australian band?
No, it wasn't actually, because they've done...
they did Run.
Run,
yeah.
Yes. No, this was our theme tune. It's kind of sort of raunchy version, isn't it? Quite good. Quite good, but...
Have to look that up.
Yeah, you'll find it out.
Anything else?
What recollections do you have of It's Marty and Hello Cheeky?
Well, Marty was... That was sort of came on after last 948 show, so Marty was offered a series and asked me to go with him, and because he needed somebody he knew to back it up. So it was good fun, and it was terrific. But I found it a bit frustrating because it was about Marty. I mean, he did lots of things in it, so I'm not knocking it. It's possibly because of that I'm not applied for it, which is probably a good thing. But he had a terrific visual sense, and it was almost the first time when, in a way, it helped the Goodies in a way, because Jim Franklin was working on it, and a lot of the visual stuff for Marty very much went in the Goodies eventually. Hello Cheeky, I liked very much on the radio. I thought television was terrible. It was one of those things that we tried to get them to shoot it with a camera right up here for everything, but then come down to, because what you're doing is putting a hat on here and running here and doing a joke there and running somewhere else. And all it looks like is you're there and you're not looking very good. And but if you can see the problem of getting to the place, then it would have been much funnier. There's a DVD come out of it. I haven't seen it yet. I actually sort of objected to it coming out, but I want to see it in a way.
It's worth seeing it just for Barry's hair, if nothing else.
Is it jet black then, or is it halfway between?
I think it's about half and half.
Is it?
There's just a lot of it.
Alright.
Alright, I think we're... Any more of us? Last one?
It's watching the DVD of Play Your Cards. I don't mean what's it called, Jester. Thank you. Watching us smoking there, you know, smoking.
Barry says as if so much student
Unbelievable. Yeah, totally. And you think, oh, well, good though, good, funny to watch, very strange to watch. Sorry, you interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I was going to say, might be time for everyone to have a little bit of a break.
Quite warm in here, isn't it?
It's
You
the door.
can
We've got aircon, so just do that.
Well, let's pop the acorn. Thank you very much, Tim.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.